Israel knew what they were doing when they targeted that consulate. They knew Iran would do something. Iran did something. I said, a few days before this actually happened, was that Iran would do something along the lines of tit for tat. The most interesting thing about stories like this is how brain dead the internet gets with no reflection either.
Do you find it funny that Iranians are being oppressed?
Can I respond? All right, whatever. Okay. How much of a cuckold you have to be like, oh, please, America, bomb us. Bomb us. I would love you to bomb us because that really f***ing work out for any other country that was bombed by US. Shut the f*** up.
All right. Shall we do the World War III thing? Shall we go over all that nonsense? Oh, God. What is there to say? There's not much to say at all. As always, the most interesting thing about stories like this is how brain dead the internet gets with no reflection either. Like, I can understand people having these conclusions when it's their first time, their first time checking out politics stuff, and they haven't really seen a tit for tat thing like this before between two parties in the Middle East. But if you're a seasoned, regular political commentator, you should kind of be able to sort of understand how these things work a little bit, even when it is fairly unprecedented. Like, this exchange between Iran and Israel is bigger than anything they've had for ever, maybe, or if not quite a while. So, but there's still quite a lot there. There's still quite a long trail of breadcrumbs to kind of show you more or less what both sides are thinking and what they're trying to achieve. So on the 1st of April, Israel strikes the Iranian embassy, the consulate in Damascus. By the way, Damascus, capital of Syria, it's about here. There's Lebanon, there's Israel, there's Golan. It's quite close to Golan, actually. So they strike that embassy. They kill about 16 people, 2 of whom were civilians, at least. Other, I think, military figures, but it seems like the main person they were targeting. Also, the Canadian embassy is not quite, is just down the road from this one. This one got damaged as well, but the Canadian embassy is empty, so whatever. It got evacuated in 2012, but they still own it. Yeah. Consulate, sorry, not embassy. Anyway, it seemed like their main target was a IRGC commander who has fairly close ties to Hezbollah, and the people that they seem to be targeting were head figures of what's called the Quds Force. The Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are basically Iran's little group that's dedicated to messing up Israel, basically. They're called Quds Force, Quds meaning the Arabic word for Jerusalem. So at the very least, they want all of Jerusalem to be under Islamic rule. And obviously West Jerusalem, at the very least, is recognized by just about everyone as part of Israel. So that's kind of the people that Israel were after. I think one person who died was an advisor. There was a Hezbollah fighter there. There was some militiamen, and there were IRGC soldiers, and then these 2 head guys. So that's who they were after. What's interesting? I mean, I've tried to look up what the legality of this is, because I don't really know if one of them is a general who is connected to Hezbollah, and one of them is a Hezbollah fighter, and there's a militiaman. It's hard to tell exactly which targets are military targets and which ones are political figures or because one was an advisor. I don't really know if you can target advisors in military. That's where it gets a little bit murky, but it looks like the combatant to civilian ratio was quite high. There were a lot of people who could easily be considered combatants who were hit. So Israel does this because they are not happy about these generals or military figures or political advisors or whoever basically helping to fund and liaise with and coordinate with Hamas and Hezbollah, primarily Hezbollah in this case, but Hamas as well. They're not completely disconnected from Hamas. So Israel does that. They strike those people in that consulate. Now, if you know anything about the way these kind of like military operations work, is Israel did this knowing Iran would retaliate in some way. Like they knew they would. They knew Iran was not going to do nothing because these were fairly senior figures in the IRGC. So that's not surprising. Now, what exactly Israel thought that would happen next would have taken certain forms, because before, just a couple of days ago, Iran, the one thing that they had done was that they went Houthi mode and attacked a boat, a vessel that apparently did have connections to Israel, but was flagged by, what was it flagged under? Portuguese? And it seems to be that the people on board were about 25 people on board, 20 of whom were Filipinos. And this is from Jerusalem Post. So that was one part of Iran's response. The classic IRGC strategy of kidnapping Filipino sailors. That was phase one, I guess. And then phase two, obviously a little bit more extreme, was that they launched a strike on Israel. They launched about between 400 or 500 drones, missiles, other various projectiles over towards Israel. Now, obviously, Iran had been warning that they were going to do something for quite a few days, so Israel was very prepared. They intercepted basically everything. Some of the ones that weren't intercepted, I think one slightly damaged a military base. There might have been, it seems, one child who was injured by shrapnel from one of the munitions, a Bedouin child. But we'll get to that in a minute. Because the rest of it gets intercepted. It gets intercepted not just by the Iron Dome, but also by American destroyers and by Jordanian anti-air. So yeah, like it was all basically taken care of. Israel basically went on lockdown for the evening, and I think for the next day as well. There was obviously quite a panic, but it seems basically like done. Now, the question is, like, I don't understand. Here's what really annoyed me. Okay, look, this really, really fucked me off. Because I said, there's no way Israel didn't think something would happen after they launched that strike. I guess we'll see if they just accidentally sparked a regional war. Now, obviously, Israel expected a response. Did they expect a response like that exactly? Who knows? Did they expect something worse or probably less severe? They probably expected less, actually. I don't know. But whatever, like, they knew something would happen. They made a choice. They were prepared for whatever Iran was going to do next. And this just made so many people really fucking mad. I don't understand. Like, obviously, you get the same people with the, it wasn't an accident. Are we really doing this? Accidentally? Mate, I'm sorry. Like, if this sparked World War III, yes, that would have been an accident, okay? Because what these people and what every fucking World War III predictor or people saying that Israel wants to escalate into a regional conflict or a full-on war, they just don't understand anything about the last 100 years of Middle East conflict. I said, I think if Iran attacks Israel, you understand that Iran has been attacked by Israel. If Iran attacks Israel, what I think is most likely to happen, again, not 100%, is that they will do tit for tat. That's what I think they're going to do. I don't think Iran has any interest in starting a full-scale war with Israel. I don't think Israel has any interest in starting a full-scale war with Iran. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's in anyone's interest, but I think it is in their interest for Israel to do enough to make it look like they're doing something to their people. And then because Iran got hit, they're going to do enough to make it look like they're doing something. That's what they would do. Actually, I was wrong. It wasn't really tit for tat because Israel's strike killed over 10 either political or military figures. 16 people total. It seems like Iran's strike didn't actually kill anyone. Like, it seems like they very well might have injured a Bedouin toddler, not even an Israeli Jew, a 7-year-old girl from the Bedouin community in the south. They might have given her a head injury. So, it's not a rumor. I only say that because the first report said that it was a 10-year-old boy, but she died? Wait, how? Okay, sorry, wait. Did something get updated? Okay, fuck, sorry. This was the last thing I saw about it. It's the first thing that comes up on Google. So yeah, this seems to be what Iran's response was. That was it, right? This is Iran's response. Yeah, so it turns out actually I was right. If it turned out to be World War III, that would have been an accident. That would not have been what either side wanted. Are you kidding me? Like, what the? That's not what the point of these strikes is. Iran also, by launching 400 or 500 missiles after giving a whole bunch of warning, they knew what they were doing when they made that decision. They could have launched more. They could have launched they could have launched 5,000 munitions, or even just like they could have launched enough to overwhelm the Iron Dome and actually kill quite a few people. Of course, they didn't, because that's not what they want. And that's just why I just find this so frustrating, because we've got like people saying that, oh, look, accidentally Lamau, like we've got that on the one hand, and then the other hand, I've got people being like, oh, like you can't expect just Iran to support Hezbollah and and Hamas and Israel to just not do anything. Well, you can say that, but again, Israel knew that they were going to get a response when they did this. It's uncontroversial. Of course they did, and they were prepared for it. So Iran gives more than enough warning for these strikes to be taken care of, both by Jordan, by America, and even by Israel itself, because they don't want to escalate. I just think it's so obvious. And apparently this is an inaccurate thumbnail, because Hassan's in the replies to this person who got like a pretty trending tweet on this saying, if you watch the video, you'll likely agree with what I'm saying in it, by the way. So I'm guessing Hassan has been around long enough to know that this is not World War III. Maybe we'll watch this video later, who knows? But what's the argument there then? That it's okay to clickbait and fearmonger about World War III? Because isn't this like the Tim Pool defense? It's okay to be hyperbolic to get clicks? About World War III? That's kind of dumb. I'd say that's kind of dumb. I think people know me well enough to know I'm being sarcastic with my stream title, right? With Hassan, not so much, I think. I feel like Hassan probably cultivated quite the audience that would think that Israel did this because they wanted a full-on regional war. Anyway, you know what's really... Obviously, it gets worse. Like, Hassan is not the worst commentator on this by any means. The copium coming from people like Jackson Hinkle or whoever else, like thinking that Iran has done an incredible flex here. But again, this is what I'm saying. This is who Iran was doing this for. They were doing this to convince their supporters that they're doing something. Because a bunch of people now actually feel quite vindicated, and they feel like Iran has actually done like a really powerful move here, even though they've barely damaged one military base and taken out a fucking child who's not even Israeli Jewish. Like, I don't know. Very, very silly. Very silly. Yeah, I think it was 1.5% of the missiles got through. It does look like they were targeting military bases, though. It does seem to be like that, because they did hit a military base. Like, they could have just fired I don't know if all the strikes were targeted or some of them were random, but yeah. Don't forget the real mental harm this does to a civilian population. Yeah, I know. It's not like a fireworks show. Obviously, seeing all those rockets go over people's heads does scare people, but it's not a regional war. It's not a World War III. It's Iran doing what they needed to make it look like they were doing something. And now Israel has said that this was inexcusable and that they're going to respond again. But the fact is that neither side has an interest in World War III. You know what's going to be really, really frustrating is, what's this? Nasrallah. It is better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a sheep. Benito Mussolini. Is this actually his... Is this his official account, or... okay, whatever. Whatever, dude. In Jordan, it was more of a fireworks show. Unironically, people were enjoying it. Yeah, well, you guys are built differently, and I guess you also are not the targets. Like, it went over, you could see the shots actually went over Al-Quds as well. Not Al-Quds, the what do you call it? Why have I forgotten the name of it? The dome on the rock, what's it called? Al-Aqsa, Jesus Christ, yeah. Wow. Al-Chud's logic, true. Yeah. It's not just scary, I'll say it's a little bit more than scary, but hey, I mean, scary's got a pretty broad spectrum of interpretation, right? Like, talking to girls is scary. As is, like, getting chased around by a bear. You know, scary's got a... You got a lot of scope with the word scary, Scarlett. Okay, don't worry. What is this? Is this the... I don't actually know who this guy is. I feel like I've seen him before, but I forget his name.
It's right here. Israel's right here. Bye-bye, Israel!
It's Speed, isn't it? It's not Kai Cenat, it's Speed. Is he just striking some desert in the middle of Saudi Arabia? In the north? Does anyone even live here? Where's he aiming for?
Hey, Israel!
This is just desert. Does anyone live there? Hang on. Yeah, who lives here? Was he going for the triangle? Was he going for Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi? How many Arab countries that are not Israel can you hit in one go? No, it looks like he was just going for Saudi, right? Like, just like here. Hail. Who are these guys? What happens here? Okay, they got some people. So, he's taken out some Saudis. Interesting.
Bye-bye!
All right. Okay, dude. I mean, that, to be fair, this isn't really too inconsistent with the general approach of anti-Israel militancy, is it? Like, it is, their approach very much is get loads of Arabs killed and say we're fighting Israel. Because I don't doubt that would have caused some fallout that would have maybe taken out a few Israelis, maybe given some people cancer. And I feel like that's the standard militant approach, isn't it? It's just like kill a bunch of Arabs in order to tickle the Israeli population. Yeah, okay. Okay. This was the Yahya Sinwar take, wasn't it? I asked Sinwar, is it worth 10,000 innocent Gazans dying? He said even 100,000 is worth it. Like, okay, nice one. But yeah, these were the people, apparently, that seemed to be the primary targets of the consulate attack in the Iranian embassy complex. 2 high-ranking members of the IRGC, Mohammad Reza Zahidi, commander in the Quds Force, and his deputy, Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi, said to be particularly closely connected to the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Okay, well. So, I guess that's the beginning and end of the World War III story? Okay. Is there much more to it than that? You know what's going to be so frustrating? It's going to be so frustrating because World War III only needs to happen once, right? And the thing is, if World War III ever does happen, you know what's going to be the worst? Well, the worst thing will be World War III and millions of people die, hundreds of millions. But you know what? Just shortly after that is that it's going to be is the cringe. Because every cunt who has spent the last 10, 20 years predicting World War III at various stages and being wrong about it are going to say that they told us so. That's what's going to happen. And just what better way to add insult to injury is all the Tim Pools and the whatever else, Jackson Hinkle's being like, I told you it'd be World War III, even though it happens, like, even though you've been predicting it incorrectly 200 times in the last 20 years, but you get it right once, and now is that really that's how it's going to work, isn't it? You know, like me when I'm 15, like, listen, hey guys, gonna lose my virginity soon, yeah, gonna do it. She's coming over. We're gonna play Viva Pinata, you know. That's like, and then when it doesn't happen, and 4 years later something actually does happen with a completely different person, I'm like, hey guys, I told you I was gonna lose my virginity, Fanny. Me, you doubted me, shagger, all right. And then I walk home with toilet water dripping off my head. Many such cases. Like, it's just so it's gonna happen, okay? And it's like when Marxists predict recessions, but then you look back at their history and it turns out they've been predicting recessions every 6 months for 10 years. It's like, okay, well, and you were going to be right one day, weren't you? Bruh. There's a whole joke about that. I actually learned that joke from Varoufakis. Was it like, the joke is that Marxists have successfully predicted, Marxists have predicted 7 out of the last 3 recessions. Like, yeah, that's... So, not saying it's 100% predictable what Israel's going to do in exchange. My guess is, probably tit for tat. Probably they're going to do something to say we're doing something, but they're going to do also something to say, listen, Iran, we don't want a full war, okay? We're just going to do some little things here and there. That's probably where I see things going, but what can you do? Israel knew what they were doing when they targeted that consulate. They knew Iran would do something. Iran did something. Iran probably intended to cause quite a bit more damage than denting a military base and injuring severely a 7-year-old Bedouin or 10-year-old. I don't know. I think Iran probably wanted more than that. I don't think they expected to get cucked in the WWE heel turn by Saudi, and they probably expected Jordan to intercept because they have problems with Iranian proxies at the Jordanian borders with Syria and Iraq. But yeah, I think I think they kind of got what they needed. They said that they're going to hit back. My guess is they're both kind of doing this thing where they are smashing the fourth wall with the way that they talk about this shit, right? First of all, it was Iran. What was it Iran said as they were hitting Israel? I think they said, yeah, like, I think this was as the rockets were still on their way. They were like, yeah, military action, it's concluded, job done. As if to say, like I said, okay, Iran was going to do tit for tat. They were going to do enough to make it look like they were doing something, maybe cause some damage, maybe a bit more than they expected, but they were not expecting to escalate into a full-scale war, because that doesn't actually help them. That doesn't actually help them as much as it doesn't help anyone. It's not what they want. So they kind of got what they wanted as well. Iran, they've got enough of a propaganda machine that they can spin their attack into looking like a lot more than it was, or even they can say like, well, look what we're capable of, right? And then Israel gets to say, well, look, we intercepted it all. Basically, everyone's fine. Like, f you, Iran. And even Israel said, forceful response. They said that they were going to do a forceful response, but one that won't spark wider war. So even you see how both sides are kind of just like doing the saber rattling, but also telling you that it's saber rattling as well. That's kind of, I don't really know how common that is, but that's quite funny. Yeah, like the fact that Iran's sending their attack and saying, "All right, that's it, done. Okay, we're even," and then Israel like, "Nah, we're gonna hit back, but not enough to cause a war." Right? What will they do? I think it's possible they might just hit other embassies and just do what they usually do, like do what's quite common, another Soleimani like America style, or another fucking Syria, or they might do like cyber warfare. One of Israel's more recent things that they did to Iran was a cyber attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, and it actually it was a virus or something that they sent over, and I think it set Iran's nuclear program back like years just with this cyber attack. So it's not even suggesting that they'll do a military strike. I don't know if Israel's actually going to drop bombs on Iran. I don't think that's what they're going to do, because Iran does not have the same air defense system that Israel does, nor does Iran have three countries surrounding it that are willing to intercept those on the way. Unless, I don't know, would Saudi do the same thing for Iran and be the international peacekeepers? I don't know. Probably not. Anyway.
I don't mean we can get into, oh my God, they're proxies and the Hamas, but then the occupation, and we can go all the way back to 1948. What I mean specifically is they attacked Iran basically on its home soil by attacking the consulate, killing their top general, etc. It was an act of provocation. It was meant to get Iran to retaliate. Netanyahu has been dying for a war with Iran for about 2 decades now. He definitely started this. It left Iran absolutely no choice but to respond, and they responded in a way that basically showed their
theatrical head movements,
which was, we don't want a war. They gave 72-hour notice. It took the drones several hours to get there. If Iran wanted to do damage inside Israel, it would not have done this type of attack at all. This was Iran basically saying, look, we have to appease our domestic audience here and tell them, oh, we were tough and struck Israel back. But they knew they were going to get no casualties. So we had a tit for tat. We should leave it alone right now. If Israel goes back and hits Iran again, then there's going to be no end to this. Then Iran is going to have to respond, and this time it's going to be real. And people are going to die in Israel. It's a terrible decision.
The Jordanian Minister of Foreign Affairs said they would intercept Israeli strikes to Iran if they passed over Jordan as well. Radical centrists. Hey, good old Jordan, eh? Jordan never wants to get involved. That's their whole thing. They're just sitting there, vibing. The spirit of King Abdullah reigned supreme.
Disastrous idea. They should definitely stop right now.
Okay, Emily Schrader, I can see you, I would say not entirely agreeing with what you just heard.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I strongly disagree, as you can imagine. I think the entire premise of asking Israel to exercise restraint rather than deterrence is a fundamental part of the problem here. I mean, as the Crown Prince mentioned, the Islamic Republic has been doing this for many, many years. It's a fundamental premise of the regime since 1979. They have been sworn to Israel's destruction. They have been sworn to America's destruction. This is a fundamental...
Michael Grant, thanks for the $9.99. I really appreciate that. Wow, thank you for the hard work you do. You're awesome, Lonerbox. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. The hardest job. I will have to stop early tonight because I got a meeting, but I really appreciate the dono. Thank you.
Value of the Islamic Republic. And not only that, but I find it very interesting what Cenk is saying right now, because the majority of the Iranian people, both inside and outside of Iran, disagree with him. In fact, there are thousands and thousands of Iranians who wish that Israel will assist the people of Iran in bringing down this regime. We are not going to see a better future in the Middle East for the Arab Muslims, for the Iranians, or for the Israelis in the Middle East until there is regime change in Iran.
I saw an article from Foreign Affairs or Foreign Policy or whatever, like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It was when the Iranians were protesting against the morality police veil shit, those protests. And there were people suggesting that it was this whole article, like a very long piece, a lot to do with American failures at intervention in the past, like Libya, Iraq, and all that shit. But then they were saying that America shouldn't stay away from its role of spreading democracy or whatever. They should just do it in different ways. And the things that they were suggesting was things like giving Starlink to the protesters and just like no boots on the ground and no airstrikes, but just kind of like beefing up the protesters. Because Iran is very, like the regime, I have no idea. Has America ever done it like that before? Yeah, I don't know. Just a very strange piece. I hope that's what she's saying, though, because I don't know if she's actually saying that there should be actually like CIA regime change in America again, I suppose. But I don't know. I think that does feel like it's Israel's strategy. I feel like Israel's strategy is to just keep on setting back Iran's nuclear program until the IRGC is eventually like removed, until the Ayatollah is eventually overthrown. I think that's what they're hoping for, because the Iranian regime is very unpopular. The Iranians are out fucking protesting year after year after year. It's not like last year was an exception. They protest all the time against the government. They oppose the government constantly. Do I keep saying IRCG? Sorry, IRGC. I always do that. Sorry. If you could pick regime change in one country, which would you pick? I don't know, Russia maybe? When you say regime change, it's obviously implying that I know what the regime's going to change to. Obviously, actual regime change in Russia right now would be someone worse than Putin, who thinks that he's doing a bad job at fighting the war, right? Did you see that LSF clip of the Iranian streamer hating on IRI? No, I didn't. What? I don't think Iran has any love for Israel. Like, the people don't have any love for Israel as much as they don't like the regime. But obviously, if Iran were to become a more democratic or a more secular or a more forward-leaning state, like it would become a lot more, that ideological drive to be at constant odds with Israel is like not really going to be there. I know Netanyahu tried to cite this study that said 30% of Iranians want to normalize relations with Israel, but I think it was basically nonsense. Let me see. Didn't Netanyahu do this? Yeah. And experts basically dismissed it and said it was nonsense. Yeah. Experts dismissed poll hailed by PM showing 30% of Iranians want Israel ties. There's a survey commissioned by Foreign Ministry, Netanyahu claims, also saying 48% of Iraqis and 30% of Saudis. Pollsters say it's flawed. Really? Was it flawed? Yeah. So the people of Iran might not have any love for their regime, or any love for Israel, but if regime change would probably make Iran a lot less like devoted to that cause of just spreading tension and destabilization around the region, because that is obviously like religiously motivated as well as politically. So.
And to say that Israel started this is preposterous. It's not Israel that has a countdown to the destruction of Israel in the center of their largest city. That's Iran. It's Iran who has made...
Well, how long is that countdown? I didn't know it was a countdown. Oh, okay.
Made hating Israel a fundamental premise of the regime, an obsessive hatred, an obsessive irrational hatred that they have taken money from the people of Iran and poured hundreds of millions of dollars into terrorist proxy organizations on the borders of Israel in order to ultimately destruct and destroy the state of Israel. I also want to add one more thing about the consulate that's important to note, that it was not, in fact, a consulate. It was an annex of the consulate. And even if it was a consulate under international law, it is permissible to strike when it's being used as a military headquarters to plan and conduct terrorist operations. Israel is in a state of war. We're in a state of war with the proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Hamas, and that is what that commander who was killed in that strike was doing there. So this is a legitimate target, even though Israel hasn't officially claimed responsibility.
Okay, I'm going to bring Joe in a moment. I just want to check. You were laughing at one stage there. What were you laughing at?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of absurd things were said there. Like any mention of the Crown Prince. I mean, the guy's the son of a former dictator of Iran. He has zero credibility with the Iranian people. Look, the Iranian regime is...
That's absolutely
a
false.
disaster.
He is the most. He is the most popular figure of any Iranians. Are you Iranian? Ask the Iranians yourself.
Okay,
it's very, very clear.
Oh, please,
well, there are
please,
some people who
love
don't support him.
Back.
The vast majority of them. The vast majority of them do support the Shah.
Is she just going to talk over me? Because
is this the Shah? Let me see. I think diaspora Iranians, obviously, but not people in the country. No, is he massively popular in the country? Wait, hang on. What are we talking about? Where is this? The wiki's saying something, but it's leading to a link that is the wiki's saying that he has a popularity with the older generation of expatriates that left Iran during the revolution, and with some people in Iran. Is she talking about Americans or Iranians? Extremely popular with expatriates, even some Iranian citizens living within the country. Yeah, okay. Huh.
We can keep
so what were they saying there?
Very clear. Are you Iranian?
Disaster. The son of a...
Okay, I'm going to bring Joe in a moment. I just want to get... Cenk, you were laughing at one stage there. What were you laughing at?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of absurd things were said there. Like any mention of the Crown Prince. I mean, the guy's the son of a former dictator of Iran. He has zero credibility with the Iranian people. Look, the Iranian regime is...
That's absolutely
a
false.
Disaster.
He is the most, he is the most popular figure of any Iranians.
Is this... Okay, wait. Most popular figure. No, she's talking specifically about the Crown Prince. What is this? In response to the question, Islamic Republic, yes or no? Where's this? Diaspora. Oh, wait. Involving 158,000 people in Iran showed that more than 80% of respondents reject the Islamic Republic and prefer a democratic government. That's not surprising. But are we talking? Is he like the symbol? I don't know enough about Iran. Is he like the symbolic leader of the democratic movement? The Shah, the Crown Prince? Huh. What? This is in 2023. Like, this isn't surprising at all. What does it say else? What else does it say? Preference. The CIA always wants to install dictators. I feel like they haven't done that many times in the recent decades. I feel like some people just hang on to Cold War history from like the 1950s, 60s, 70s, just like for dear life. And that's like their only foreign policy analysis when it comes to the United States and dictatorships around the world that they oppose. We did the Shah in 52, 53? Because it was Mossadegh before then. I think the British were involved as well, weren't they? At least they favored it because of oil, the British Empire. Yeah. But the Shah's regime was not good. It was good for the West, but it wasn't good. The guy had like a secret police and shit. Yeah. Okay, let's see. The coup was popular. What? The Shah's coup? Well, you know what else was popular? I don't even know if that's true, but do you know what else was popular in Iran? Was the revolution. The Islamic Revolution was insanely popular in Iran. That's why it was also fairly non-violent, like the actual process of overthrowing the guy, the Shah, because of how much approval the revolution had. Like, a lot of those women who like threw their fucking veils back on in the streets did it voluntarily. They did it before they were forced to, right? Yeah. It's like millions upon millions of Iranians just like out on the streets for that to happen. Yeah. In the follow-up question for those who answered no, they were asked about the preferred democratic and secular alternative political system. Of those, 28% inside Iran and 32% outside would prefer a presidential republic. 12% and 29% parliamentary. 25% constitutional monarchy. Oh God, can you imagine after all these years if Iran goes to being a fucking British system? Again, a British... Because were they not a constitutional monarchy when Mossadegh was overthrown? Didn't install the Shah, granted him dictatorial powers because it used to be... Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the Shah didn't come out of nowhere. It's not like they just picked a king and threw him in there. He was already the king. Yeah, he was already the monarch, but he wasn't like... there was also a democratically elected prime minister, was he? Or was he a president? I think he was a prime minister. Yeah. Yeah, this dude. Okay.
Are you Iranian? Ask the Iranians yourself.
Okay,
it's very, very clear.
Oh, please,
While there are some
please,
people
we'd
who
love our
don't support
dictator
him,
back.
the vast
Okay,
majority
can I
of
answer the
them,
question?
the vast majority of them do support the Shah.
Is she just going to talk over me? Because we can keep doing this all day long. Let me answer the question. So, first of all, the idea that they want their dictator back is hilarious. Second of all, but the thing that I laughed out loud at is she's like, oh, the Iranian people want Israel to bomb them. Do they? Do they? That's the most preposterous thing I have
I
ever
said
heard
the
in my
Iranian
life.
people want... It's actually not. There are multiple polls that show that.
Go ahead.
I personally think it's crazy.
Multiple
but there
polls
have
that
been
show that they
graffiti
want to be
all over
bombed by
Tehran.
Israel?
There have been that they support Israeli
ridiculous.
strikes, that they support Israeli...
Well, if she can just say it. I feel like the fact that the regime itself is really unpopular and that they'd rather some kind of democratic system is pretty uncontroversial. Why do Iranians support Israeli strikes? How? There's no way. What poll is she talking about? So I can see a poll saying Israelis support strikes against Iran. 29% support an immediate one, 37% want a later date, and 25% oppose. Over half of Israelis oppose counterattack against Iran. Hey, look at that. Good old Israelis, eh? I think they're gonna... Only guessing. It's not predict. I mean, just a guess. I guess it's gonna be a cyber attack, but who knows? Or after that, it would be an attack in a different country. Least likely is they actually hit Iran's soil itself. We'll see. I don't know. But I'm basing that on pure vibes. So let's see. I don't think there's any poll saying that a surprising number of Iranians want to get bombed by Israel. Iranians fear their brittle regime will drag them into war. Okay, there's something about attack on proxies. Yeah, or Iranian figures as they're liaising with fucking proxies, right? Like what happened in Syria. In the Consulate Annex, as it was called. I still don't know the international law when it comes to hitting the consulate. Assuming it was the consulate. I don't know what the law is on hitting a consulate building. To target figures who are part of a war against you in a country that doesn't even recognize you. Don't know. I can't...
strikes on regime, IRGC, and regime sites exclusively.
Oh God, we're getting...
On IRGC sites. Yes, the majority of the Iranian people support regime change. The majority...
So, regime change, okay. She's... That seems uncontroversial, okay.
Of the Iranian people support regime change. I find it disgraceful that you are laughing at the suffering of 80 million people who live under an Islamist dictatorship.
No.
There are women who are being dragged away by the morality police. As the Crown Prince mentioned, there is a second front of this war, and it is against the Iranian people internally. Is that funny to you?
Is
it funny to you that women are being kidnapped by the regime?
Of the time? Is she just going to talk 90% of the time?
Why don't you respond to that?
All right,
is that funny to you?
Let me just respond real quick.
Do you find it funny that women, that Iranians are being oppressed
on a daily
basis by this regime?
So they support regime change, but not the dictator. Well, it seems to be that in roughly equal measures, they are between a presidential system, a parliamentary system, or a constitutional monarchy. Yeah. Because I think they used to have a constitutional monarchy. So that part is, so it's not, so wanting democracy and regime change and also wanting the crown prince, that's not incompatible. Because the crown prince would be in the context of a constitutional monarchy. You know, like the UK. And as you guys know, the UK, for all our maces and swords and lords and queen speech, king speech, we function better than the United States, all right? It's too fucking boring, the American political system. The House and the Senate, ugh. You need more fucking majesty, okay, to keep people believing in your system, all right? That's why right-wingers and fascists don't want to overthrow our political system in the UK. It's because they kind of like it. It's like it makes them happy to look at. They like looking at the people with the ermine and the furs and the weaponry and the sergeant at arms. Look, this person. God, we're so modern. Look at us. A fucking colonial slave country. And now we've got a fucking black dude as the sergeant of arms. What an amazing country, bro. Look, you know what this guy does is if politicians are misbehaving, like if they're sitting in their chambers and they're trying to delay by not turning up for a vote that they're needed to be there on, or like to turn up to a debate or whatever, this guy will come up to them and fucking like chase them into the house with a sword. He'll like follow them with a sword behind them. No right winger is ever going to try to overthrow this system. Okay, they don't care. They love it.
Okay,
you
Jack,
can talk all
your
day
response.
long. We're not gonna. All right. So,
What, bro?
quick.
Do you find it funny
Okay,
that women,
so
that
listen,
Iranians are being oppressed
Can
on
I
a daily
respond?
basis
All
by
right,
this
whatever.
regime?
Okay,
You
Jack,
can talk
your
all day
response.
long. We're not gonna. All right. So, listen.
Bro,
the Iranian
Pierce is mogging his audience. He knows what he's doing by bringing all of, because I guess he tests the waters at the beginning by bringing his variety of guests, and now he's just like, and now he's filtered out the most clickbaity fucking nutter guests, and now they're just his regular cast, the regular Piers Morgan orbiters.
regime is terrible. I don't want Muslim fundamentalists in charge of Iran, and the people of Iran don't want Muslim fundamentalists in charge of Iran. So saying that they're against the regime is obvious. That's not the point. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If you said, hey, there's an internal revolution, and they're disgusted by the way that the Iranian regime is treating women or its own citizens and not giving them freedom, I totally agree. But if you claim that they want Israel to bomb Iran in order to effectuate regime change, it's not even, you don't even sound like a lunatic. You sound like you're a comic or something. You're trying to make a joke. That's why I'm laughing. No, the Iranian people do not want to be bombed.
Let me bring in Joe.
by
Let me bring in
Israel.
Joe.
But furthermore,
All right, let me bring in Joe. Joe's been waiting very patiently. Joe, here's my question for you about this. Yeah. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, but let me just put an idea out there about what may be really going on here. It doesn't seem to me to be a coincidence that October the 7th happened when it did, or that Iran chooses this moment to attack Israel directly, and that it may all be linked to the Abraham Accords, to the normalization of relations between Israel and many of the Middle Eastern countries, to the fact that Saudi Arabia was on the verge of joining that normalization of relations with Israel, and that for Iran this is the ultimate nightmare, and that through their proxy tentacles in Gaza and Hamas, they facilitated what happened on October the 7th to cause and maybe deliberately provoke Israel into what they would see as an overreaction, which would then lose global support. And it may be that what they've done with this missile strike directly into Israel is part of the same process, deliberately goading Israel into potentially overreacting, which may ultimately play into Iran's hands.
Pierce, I think you are spot.
Yeah, see, this is the part that I don't think Iran was anticipating, was Saudi and the Gulf and other Gulf states, including Saudi and the Emirates, sharing intelligence with Israel, and that being key to the success of the air defense response. And the US, obviously, there were some US destroyers that shot down. I don't think they were expecting 99% interception rate. What a dramatic turn. I mean, I know Saudi and Iran don't get along anyway, but obviously Saudi doing that, Saudi would have done that and weighed up the fact that it would have pissed off their local population as well. But obviously they've just felt like that level of dissatisfaction is something that they can handle. Anyway.
On, my friend. Look, it's silly to engage in who started this first. Let's not do that.
Also, I don't know how credible this is. Yeah, I think it is, though. Yes, even this at the same time around this, Saudis, just a day ago, the Saudis also said that Iran had instigated October 7th to sabotage the normalization deal. I think people have hinted at this for a while, that the idea that Iran was involved in October 7th, or at least the planning of it, or even it might have been their idea, but I don't think this is the first time we're hearing Saudi actually claiming that, I'm pretty sure. Accused Iran of instigating the conflict in Gaza to undermine progress. Who was it who said? A source from the royal family said Tehran promotes terrorism, suggested that Riyadh played a role in thwarting Saturday night's drone and missile attack against Israel by the Islamic Republic and its proxies. Wild. In a war between Iran and Israel, who do you think would win? Neither, probably. I don't think either side has the power to destroy the other. And the problem is that if Iran did well enough, Israel would just use nukes. If Iran ever started getting the upper hand and Israel felt like they couldn't handle it, they would just use their nukes, right? Yeah. So basically no one. Yeah.
We all three of us agree that Iran's ruling regime is an evil regime. The Iranian people deserve to live in freedom. Pierce, you're exactly right. Look,
Saudi didn't counterstrike Iran. I know they didn't.
The answer is the only way.
Wait, I didn't say they counterstruck Iran. They helped with the thing, no? The interceptions. They intercepted Iranian munitions over their airspace.
Get to peace in this region is when Israel can partner with the moderate Arab countries and isolate Iran, isolate Iran's proxies and all the other Islamists, not Muslims, Islamists who want to destroy Israel. Pierce, which is why I agree with Cenk on what Israel should do to what happened over the weekend. Do nothing.
Hey.
Ignore Iran. Finish the job in Gaza, work with the moderate Arab world to rebuild Gaza, and completely ignore Iran, isolate Iran. That's the only way we're going to get to peace.
Emily, I mean, do you agree with that? Do you not see the danger, Emily, that if Israel does now launch a massive counterstrike into Iran, that it could actually be doing exactly what Iran wants it to do?
Of course, that's a distinct possibility. I think there are a lot of options on the table when it comes to any kind of response. I know there's already been some discussion this morning about a cyber attack. There are a number of different options that have been put forward to the cabinet, and it remains to be seen what they will do about it. I don't know if a military option is the best option for a regime change in Iran. I've advocated for many years now that I think that the Western governments have an obligation and a duty to assist the people of Iran. What the Crown Prince was mentioning about maximum support is incredibly important. The people of Iran want this regime to fall, and I do believe that there is a way to do it peacefully, but it does require a lot of effort on the part of the West, and it does require enforcement of sanctions, not just putting on the books, enforcement of sanctions, adding additional sanctions, choking this regime out until they fall, and also empowering the people. We had multiple uprisings that have been quashed violently by the Islamic Republic. The people are ready. We need to support them. And we haven't seen that from the Western world. We haven't seen that from Europe with their failure to designate the IRGC. We haven't seen that with the enforcement of sanctions. We haven't seen that with a very, very weak Iran policy from the Biden administration. That is something that allows this regime to continue, not to mention, of course, releasing billions of dollars in assets that is then going to terrorist organizations throughout the Middle East that disproportionately harm and kill Arab Muslims in the region. So really, Israel and the Arab world are on the same page. As you mentioned about the Abraham Accords, this is a
World War III war bonds for the lonely box man.
Major threat to the Islamic Republic. This is what they're seeking to destroy. They are an anti-peace entity. And so I think that the democratic Western world needs to push back against that, and they need to empower the people of Iran, increase the pressure on the regime, increase support for the people, and see if that can get us to where we need to go with this regime falling.
Okay, Cenk, I mean, I was struck.
The labor is what's expensive. Yeah, I know, but you guys are paying me for that, okay? That's fine. Don't worry about the labor. I'll do it. I'll do it for free.
By the fact that immediately racing to the defense of Israel when these missiles were fired were the British, but also Jordan, Saudi Arabia. You know, it was fascinating to watch the geopolitics play out here. How significant do you think that was?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. First of all, when the UK and the US help Israel knock down the drones and the missiles, I'm totally in favor of that. As you know, Piers, I've been consistent on this from day one. I don't want any civilians dying in Israel, in Gaza, in Iran. That's what I care about the most. And so we want to avoid war. Saudi Arabia has always hated Iran. That's not surprising. Look, Israel actually...
Nice try, big bad wolf.
Could unite a lot of the Arab countries, moderate or otherwise. Saudi Arabia, of course, is not moderate. They're also fundamentalist Muslims. They're also dictators, etc. But you could rally all those folks as long as you end the occupation. But if you're going to continue the occupation for another 75 years, 75 days, etc., you're never going to rally any of those Arab countries. Yeah, you might get a deal with a dictator or two because they have economic interests on your side, but you're not ever going to get the people on your side. And by the way, in this conversation, we're actually finally getting to somewhere productive. Look, there's plenty of disagreement I have with Emily on the money and the sanctions, etc. But overall, think about it, guys. If you bomb Iran, do you think that makes regime change more likely or less likely? Obviously, it makes it less likely because it allows the regime to rally the Iranian people.
It depends on what kind of strike.
Can I just finish?
It depends on what kind. If you're targeting an IRGC site, if you're targeting a nuclear site, you can't make a blanket statement like that. That's massively overbroad. There is a strategic military option.
There is no people on Earth. There are no people on Earth that say, oh, it's okay to bomb our country as long as you bomb military or nuclear facilities or anything like that. No, of course they're going to think Israel bombed us. You have to bomb them back.
85%
and it's going to rally them around the regime. I can't understand why you can't see that. It's so look, guys. I don't know.
It's thousands of Iranians.
Here's
it's not
Let me bring in Joe. Let me bring in Joe. He's been waiting patiently.
Let's clarify.
Okay.
Okay, so Emily says bombing Iran is going to get the Iranian people on Israel's side. I say no. What do you
Well, no,
two
to be
say?
fair, no. Wait a minute. To be fair, what she said was
IRGC
it depends what targets Israel targeted in that
No, it
eventuality.
does not depend.
If it was purely
There is no
military
target.
targets, nuclear targets, and so on.
No,
has
there
she
is
not
no
got a point,
target.
though, Cenk?
Where the Iranian... Piers, are you saying that the Iranian people would be like, oh, you targeted us, but in the best possible intentions? We're so happy Israel bombed us
what I'm
because
saying,
only our military facilities.
What I'm saying is, I think Emily has a point. There would clearly be a different response, I would imagine, from a lot of Iranian people if they, the civilians, were not targeted. I mean, there's a qualitative difference between military targets and civilian targets, isn't there?
Barely, because look, it's all about rhetoric. You think the Iranian regime is going to tell their local population, hey guys, don't sweat it. It was just a military site. No, they're going to rile people up. I think it's deeply counterproductive. It helps the mullahs. It helps the Grand Ayatollah. If you bomb Iran in any way, shape, or form, do you think that if America was bombed, we'd be like, oh no, it's okay. They hit a military target. So we're now in favor of the country who bombed us. There's a 0% chance of that.
All right, let me bring in Joe.
I'm actually not too sure about that. How many would local Iranians cared if like the nuclear site was hit in a strike? I don't have no idea. Couldn't tell you. Would they suddenly become pro Ayatollah?
Now,
the government.
Let me bring in Joe. We must let Joe have a say. Joe.
No, and I'll be brief, Pierce. Thanks. I just think what happened this weekend, And I say this as someone who is off the charts pro-Israel. What happened this weekend presents an opportunity for Israel. And I think turning the other cheek right now and ignoring Iran right now is a huge signal of strength. I really do. There are people around the world who hate Israel, who are just waiting for Israel to bomb and attack Iran. Don't give them that. Isolate Iran, ignore them, and focus on what you need to focus on, Israel.
Okay, Emily.
Here is that if Israel doesn't respond, the problem here is that if Israel doesn't respond in some capacity, maybe it's a cyber attack, maybe it's some other method that we haven't thought of yet, I don't know. But if Israel does nothing, this also is not the right response, because doing nothing emboldens the regime. We need to deter the regime, not just Israel, but the entire Western world. This is a disgusting Islamist human rights violating regime that is persecuting its own people.
Yeah, but Emily, isn't it also the case, Emily?
Maybe it can be done through sanctions.
But you talk about, okay,
Maybe
Emily,
let me challenge you. But that's not up to Israel alone.
Okay, Emily, here's my question for you. Is it not a deterrence that Iran fires off all these missiles, including ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and so on, and none of them landed? I mean, barely nothing worked. It was all neutralized by not just Israel's Iron Dome, but also by its other countries and their defenses in the region. But it was a complete failure operationally. Now, it may well be that Iran intended it not to be that successful, hence the warnings that they gave to the Americans, to the Saudis, and so on. It may be it was all performative in that sense. But
mostly drones. I think it was like about 170 drones, about 100 odd, no, 30 cruise missiles. 120 ballistic missiles.
The reality is, Israel's defenses, unlike on October the 7th, they stood up magnificently well. Is that not in itself a pretty unnerving deterrent to enemies who want to try and do this thing? Is that you can try, but you won't succeed?
Well, I think there's no question it was a spectacular failure on the part of the Islamic Republic, with 99% of their projectiles being shot down by a coalition of countries. However, when it comes to deterrence, the Islamic Republic knows full well that they can fire 10 times the amount as they themselves have promised to do and overwhelm the missile defense system. So that isn't really an accurate response. And I also want to add that what the Islamic regime did in this instance by launching this, by escalating the conflict, is actually a sign of weakness of the regime itself. I mean, they have rallied around bashing Israel as a tool to, try to get...
Mixolydian, thanks for the 200 yen. I really appreciate that. Do you like friendly Geordies? Don't know anything about them. Sorry. Anyway.
Get people to their side and to show that they are under attack for many, many years. This is a tactic that they did even with the Iran-Iraq war. They were wildly unpopular, and so they started a war. That being said, you can see that in the timidness of their strike and the fact that Hezbollah, which is an arm of the Islamic Republic...
Who started the Iran-Iraq war? Did she say Iran started the... What? Pretty sure Iraq invaded Iran, no? What did... Wow. She's just kind of throwing out a lot, isn't she? Okay.
In Lebanon didn't go full out on Israel, although they also fired rockets, that they are not prepared. And that could be for a number of different reasons. But I don't think that they're looking for a full-out war with Israel right now. Despite that, they did escalate the situation. And I think that Israel has an obligation to deter them and to respond strongly and ensure that this type of thing does not respond again, or does not occur again, I'm sorry.
All right. I'll come to Cenk in a moment, but Joe, you don't agree with that?
No, Emily, look, I agree that Iran is vastly weakened after this weekend. But man, you bomb them, you go after that regime militarily, you will do nothing but embolden them. They are weakened. So keep them on this path. Show your strength. Look at them and look the other way and do what you need to do. They're weak.
I feel like Jeffrey Epstein is kind of offering the more balanced perspective here. He's kind of doing the best contributions so far.
Continue to isolate
this
them.
Only works. This only works if you have the coalition of other countries, if you have the West involved, if you have countries that are willing to enforce sanctions, that are willing to designate the IRGC. No, they don't. It's been years, and Europe has refused to designate the IRGC. They're not enforcing sanctions. The Biden administration is weaker than ever. They're releasing billions in frozen assets over and over and over again. Appeasement doesn't work. Every time we appease this regime, executions go up, nuclear proliferation goes up, funding for terrorism goes up.
Let me bring in Cenk here. Cenk, you're shaking your head there. Do you not agree with the principle? The Crown Prince said the same thing, that appeasing Iran in any way has turned out to be a completely pointless exercise.
Oh.
Yeah, that's 100% wrong. We had Iran completely contained under Obama. We did a great deal. We took the uranium out of the country. They had no nuclear program. Then that idiot Trump came along, egged on by the idiot Netanyahu, and said, oh, let's get out of the deal so they can start doing uranium enrichment again. That was such a terrible idea. And now Iran is more emboldened and more dangerous because of that right-wing mentality of always go maximalist. You think like that people don't know that Israel will try to obliterate Iran if they have a war? Everybody knows that, okay? Everybody knows that Israel has nukes. Everyone knows that Netanyahu is a warmonger and will do vicious things. It's not like we can't see Gaza. But you're not going to help the people of Israel, let alone America, which I want to come back to, if you start this giant war in the Middle East. Here's what the people, the government of Israel, I don't think understands at this point. They're in great danger of losing the American people for the first time in my life. The left wing can't stand what they've done in Gaza, but I got news for you. A ton of the right wing can't stand it either. And here's what we're all unified about. We don't want to go into another disastrous war in the Middle East. MAGA doesn't want that. Progressives don't want that. The only people who want that.
Is coming to you.
No, it's not. Israel wants the war. America doesn't want the war.
Has promised from day one. That is what the Islamic Republic, the little Satan is Israel and the big Satan is the United States. This is their ideology. They are not motivated. They are not motivated by reason. They're motivated by extremism. You are missing the point.
We can talk over each other all day long.
You can keep saying no, it doesn't change the reality.
Okay, here's the reality. America doesn't want to go to war. If any government official, whether it's Biden or Trump, if anybody brings us to war, they will pay a massive political price. And by the way, so will Israel. If Israel drags...
Did someone say that? What's this LSF video of the guy shitting on IRI? Where's that?
us into this war, I guarantee you they lose American support. Whether you like it or you don't, and the polling indicates this, you're this close to losing the entire right wing, let alone the entire left wing. We're sick of Palestinians being murdered with our money. And now you want to start a giant war in the Middle East and have us fight for it? Here's how many troops should go into a war in the Middle East. Zero.
T, thanks for $2. Everyone except for Joe the Reasonable is... disabled. Okay. Wow. Jesus. A bit fucking edgy, isn't it?
America doesn't need to
You're arguing about politics and popularity. That's not the issue here.
If Israel wants to start a war with Iran, good luck to you.
Vintage Jank, let's
America should
go.
have nothing to do with it. Nothing. I'm sick of Israel starting hostilities, killing Muslim people, and then saying, America pay for it. America fight for it. Zero kids should go and $0 should go.
If the goal, and I think all three of us can agree to this, if the goal is to defeat Iran's ruling regime, you have to be smart. And if you respond militarily right now in a big way against this regime, that will not defeat them. Emily, I'm with you on your end game, but we have to be smart. And it would be terrible.
Because we are not IRI. It's good if Israel hits Iran, because then it's gonna diminish the power of IRI. We are not them. Let them attack the embassy. Like, let's go. Like, they're cheering for Israel and America to start bombing them. How much of a cuckold you have to be like, oh, please, America, bomb us. I would love you to bomb us, because that really fucking worked out for any other fucking country that was bombed by US. Shut the fuck up, retards! Holy shit, man. Oh my god. These are the fucking people who are cheering for fucking Israel. All right? And because we are not IRI.
How do you know he's talking about IRI? Like, I'm really important. Who is this guy? This guy's great. What are you talking about? This guy's memes.
Short-sighted right now if Israel responded in kind. We're on a path where we can isolate Iran.
IRI means Islamic Republic of Iran. No, it doesn't. It means I'm really important. The streamer. The pretty fly white guy from the Offspring video.
Considering even responding in kind.
Any sort of military response would backfire on Israel right now.
God damn, if this dumb motherfucker can't find common ground with you, you must be like Joseph Mengele tier. Loner Box is just 2015 Dave Rubin. I agree, actually. What are we talking about? What does that mean?
That's right.
Emily?
And you don't want to do it to Israel.
I don't agree with that. I fundamentally don't agree with that, but I actually want to address something else, which is that you're saying America doesn't want a war. I agree with you. What you're arguing about here is a popularity contest. You're arguing about elections. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the future and the safety of the United States. I'm talking about the future and the safety of the Western world and the future and the safety of the state of Israel. And the reality is that we're dealing with a regime that is not logical. They are concerned by extremist ideology that they're trying to promote all around the world. It is not logical. That is why appeasement hasn't worked.
Do you think we've been trying to appease Iran? I really don't get that. Like, even fucking Trump of all people, like, even though the nuclear deal was fucking stupid, like Trump, like Soleimani was under Trump. Ugh. When they say appease Iran, they just mean not going as hard as we'd like them to. Yeah, silly.
That doesn't matter? Shame on you.
You want to lose American elections and then lose all money to Israel? Go have at it, Hoss. But that's not going to help Israel at all, okay? So stop going in a counterproductive direction. All of this warmongering is totally counterproductive. It hurts Israeli citizens. Obviously, Iranian civilians would be hurt. But America, I don't understand how Israel's our ally. All they ever do is drag us into wars, drag us into conflicts. The idea of America's not safe unless we attack Iran
Israel
is
on
insanity.
the front lines of the war that will come to the United States.
The front lines of a war they started. Front lines of a war they started.
No.
I don't see how this has anything to do with American interests.
Have you not heard? Have you not
America,
heard the Ayatollah
Iran's
speak
not
about the
attacked
United
America.
States?
I would want to know how Israel started the war with Iran. That's kind of, if you want to talk about Palestinians, you can make that argument from the history and everything, but I feel like Iran doesn't really have to go to war with Israel. They don't need to do that. The Consulate strike. Was the Consulate strike the first time there was ever any hostility between Iran and Israel? What are you talking about? What's Iran been doing for the last, like, since 79? What have they been doing since whatever the revolution was? Supporting Hezbollah, then supporting Hamas, then supporting proxies in Syria. Yeah, they've been supporting people who attack Israel. This person just wants this person wants like a fucking, I don't even know what she wants. She wants, what she wants is probably quite scary. That's why she's not really being too visual, too descriptive about exactly what she wants us to do to Iran.
Yeah, I know what they say, and you say that they're not rational. That's actually not true. If they were irrational and they were religious zealots and all that, so they're actually greedy and corrupt. That's the thing that drives them. And they want to keep their lives and they want to keep their money. And so that's why they gave us 72-hour notice before they attacked.
Want to export
if they were irrational
their
zealots,
they would have all over the world, as they have stated and as they are doing.
I can't go on with people that constantly talk over me. All right, if they were zealots, they would have done what Netanyahu did. Attack blindly and with rage and just kill everything in sight. You want to talk about...
What is the other option? Iran is developing nuclear weapons and repeatedly saying intent to use them. The West is seriously so blind. But it seems to be, again, Israel knows that. That's why but Israel also knows that the Iranian regime is not immovable, which is why Israel's way of dealing with Iran so far seems to have been to frustrate the nuclear program of Iran, because it only seems to take one strategic strike or like one fucking cyber attack to set the nuclear program back years, maybe even like over a decade, and also assassinating nuclear scientists. That like, Israel can set the nuclear program back without going into a full-scale war. They can set it back. They can't take it out completely. That would take a full-scale war, but they can frustrate it. And then I think their strategy is just to do that so that they can eventually have regime change in the country. That eventually the opposition comes from within. Because there is also the risk that Israel tries to go full-on military assault on Iran's nuclear capabilities, and they fail, and they spark a regional backlash in the area, and they spread themselves too thin, and then the people of Iran suddenly start to feel supportive of the regime because the regime is fighting against the people who are bombing them. That's a pretty big risk as well. Like, I don't know, it's just not as simple as you think it is.
About zealous. Look at the Israeli settlers. The fundamentalists of Muslims, Jews, and Christians in this world
that
are
shot
getting
down a
all
plane
of us
of their
killed.
own citizens. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
by accident, because they're clowns.
What are you talking about? Do you know nothing about Iran? Do you know?
Do you think this lady knows about USS Liberty? What about the USS Liberty? Do you think that was Israel dragging America into a war? Pretty sure that, yeah, the USS Liberty was an accident, unless you're like a Nazi. Then you think it was like a deliberate attempt to to bring America into the fold. But okay.
Know nothing about how the Islamic Republic works? You seem to think that the
listen,
Iranian
we've got to
people
leave
are
it there.
perfectly fine with their regime.
Let me give the last word to Joe.
Yeah, and Emily, let me slap Cenk with this one, because you and I are on the same side of this one. Israel, I tweeted this over the weekend, Cenk, and I believe it. An attack on Israel is an attack on America. Plain and simple. Israel is
No, it's not.
Cenk, hold on. Let me finish, my brother. Israel is our best friend on this planet. They are our closest ally.
Hey,
if Israel was
wow.
hit by any country in that region, like over the weekend, America would be there to defend it, to defend Israel, because they are our best friend.
I think you'll actually find that America's best friend is the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland. I don't recall Joe Biden falling out on the daily with Mr. Rishi Sunak, okay?
And Cenk, America will always be pro-Israel, period.
No, it won't.
But
The
we have
polling
to fight
indicates
this
it's not
fight
pro-Israel right
smartly.
now.
Oh, yes, we
I don't know why.
I mean,
like, what,
I do.
they're better
I
friend
would
than
say on
Canada?
that.
Why?
Go ahead, Pierce.
I do think Cenk has made one. Cenk made a powerful point earlier, which is true, which is the polling has never been as negative as this towards Israel in America in modern times. So there is no doubt that there is certainly amongst younger people in America, there is a growing sense of unease about this special relationship. And that is undeniable from the polls. So anyway, we've got to leave it there. A fascinating debate. Thank you all very much indeed. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pierce.
Wow. World War, what are we on now? 6, 7? Loner Box, how are the arguments you make against dealing with Iran not 100% applicable and mirrored onto the Western views of Germany in the early 30s? Because the reason people say that we should have done something about Germany in the 30s is because of what happened, and is mostly because of hindsight. I don't actually know if it would have been the best idea to just fucking invade Germany like in 1933. Like, I don't really know how that would have worked out. I don't think anyone expected the regime to last that long. I don't think anyone expected them to we attacked the Nazis when they tried to fucking conquer Europe. Maybe in like 38, maybe if Iran starts fucking annexing its neighbors and rolling tanks into other countries next door to them, that might be a good time for it. That is not the same as the appeasement process, you fucking retard, happened when Germany was annexing other countries. Fucking Austria, Czechoslovakia, what do you... We sold out fucking countries to appease Germany, not like 1933, and like, oh, they're arming up and shit. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry, who refers to appeasement and actually means like 1933-34 when we knew that Germany had violated Versailles by rearming? There was some level of sanctions that varied across Britain and America, but appeasement. That's not what appeasement means. Appeasement was like the Munich Agreement. It was tolerating the Anschluss and the annexation of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland. Let's see. Appeasement. I mean, here, it's the policy of allowing Hitler to expand German territory unchecked. Appeasement was not. The Wikipedia talks about the 30s. Yeah, you know how like when you go to Wikipedia and they talk about fucking World War II, they might start talking about things that happened before World War II. Do they? Well, they're talking about 1917. You think World War II is 1917? What a fucking stupid argument. What are they saying? Okay, let's see. Is appeasement when you don't invade Germany in fucking 1933? That's what appeasement is to you. Appeasement, the policy of appeasing Hitler and Mussolini operating jointly at the time during 1937 and 38 by continuous concessions granted in the hope of reaching a point of saturation when the dictators would be willing to accede to international collaboration. Just because it talks about pre-fucking 1937-38. 35-39? So I guess if you're really stretching it, it's rearmament, allowing rearmament to go without enough repercussions. Crazy how you can have a process that leads up to that. Oh, you're so fucking retarded. Okay. Yeah, that's, if you want to use the President Sunday understanding of words, then yes, appeasement actually started, really in like 1928 when the CIA didn't, or like maybe more like 1932 when the CIA didn't fucking coup Hindenburg. Yeah, that actually also was part of the appeasement process, for sure. W. Anyway, it's not even like that's what's happening. Like when Germany was rearming, there were not, as far as I know, when rearmament was discovered by the British or the Allied forces in like the 30s and 34, 35, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't recall any instances where the British or the Americans or the French were assassinating German military figures or were attacking German armament factories covertly to frustrate the rearmament process. Was that happening? Was that happening in 34, 35? I don't think it was. Or is what's actually happening here that I'm being given a World War II fucking comparison by someone who doesn't know dick about World War II? Is that more or less what's happening? Probably. Yeah, okay, cool. Nice one. Good. I will say, you know, yeah, again, like, if you think I'm pro-appeasement because of that, like that's not really my position. I think if like we got to 1934, 35 and someone poisoned fucking Werner von Braun or whatever, I'd be like, okay, whatever. That guy. I don't want fucking V2 rockets going over merry old London. Please, thank you. Maybe the reaction to the Rhineland remilitarization was appeasement. If you want to make that argument, that's fine, but that's not an equivalent. That's not comparable to what the West is doing in response to Iran, right? Because Iran is doing like militarization in their own way with the nuclear program and shit like that. And Western powers are fucking assassinating nuclear scientists in Iran. They're cyber attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. They're fucking assassinating Iranian military and political figures in different countries. That's not what we did in Germany in 1934-35. Like, okay. I think you could argue there is a semblance in England's restriction of coal and other resources to Germany, but that's normal trade protections. Yeah, I mean, that happened fucking plenty. Yeah, but again, that's not... I feel like what we do with regards to Iran proportionally to their development of military capability is not the same as what the Allies did to Germany in the early to mid 30s. We were far more permissive to Germany in the early to mid 40s than we are to Iran. But I guess appeasement in the Wikipedia mentions like 1917 or 1930, so whatever.